What's going on, guys? Crypto Renegade here again with another video for you. And in today's video, I wanted to address a question that I get in the comments all the time. And it's a very good question, actually. So I wanted to give you a couple of examples of how do you trust your hardware wallet? You know, when there's lots of different companies out there, how do you trust that they're not going to steal your private keys? How do you trust that the mnemonic phrase that they're generating for you is trustworthy? How do you know that they're not just going to steal all your coins once you put it on there, and so on? And when you're dealing with cryptocurrency, it's a very legitimate question because security is of the utmost importance. As you know, on this channel, I primarily focus on teaching people how to protect their private keys, how to use a hardware wallet, and how to take personal possession of those keys and how to manage them properly. So I wanted to address these questions that keep coming up of how do I know this hardware wallet's safe? Well, the short answer is you have to put some level of trust into any company that you decide to use, and you really have to trust that company versus yourself in terms of photography skills, protecting your private keys, and so on and so forth. I'm going to give you a small clip from a very well-known member of the Bitcoin community, Andreas Antonopoulos. He's going to explain this briefly in a much better and articulate way that I can that will help make you understand this. So we'll go ahead and check that out now.
Hi, Andreas. I use multisig. But for most people getting into crypto, I recommend a Ledger or Trezor hardware wallet because the graphical user interface is so simple. How can they trust Trezor or Ledger generating their seeds? This is a really good question, and it comes up all the time. The bottom line is that no matter what kind of device you're using, you have to put some degree of trust. The only way to have zero trust in no manufacturer, software, or hardware device is to do everything by paper and pencil, and trying to do elliptic curve multiplication or hashing by pencil and paper is probably too difficult for most people. So let's look at if we have to trust, then how can we minimize the amount of trust that we put in third parties? Now, this question is tricky because depending on how you answer it, people may try a cure that is worse than the disease, no pun intended. And what will happen in that case is that people may say, oh, I can't trust Trezor or Ledger or another hardware wallet's manufacturer to generate my seeds. So instead, I'm going to build my own. I'm going to download Tails and follow the Glacier protocol and install it on a ThinkPad that I got from college 6 years ago. I'm then going to print it to a printer with no memory, and what you've just done is shifted the trust from a special purpose hardware device and special purpose software system designed for this purpose and shifted it to general purpose software, general purpose operating system, and general purpose hardware, where it's much more difficult to check the origin of these devices and systems. Also, you've increased the difficulty and increased the chances of making a mistake by several orders of magnitude.
Okay, so as you saw there, he addressed that no matter what you do, you're going to have to trust either the software, you're going to have to trust the manufacturer, you're going to have to ultimately trust on some level another company to manage your private keys. So I'm about to embark on a couple of different ways that you can sort of validate or verify and give yourself feeling a little bit more comfortable with these companies. And the ones that I am going to use for this example here are Ledger and Trezor. So these are two of the oldest hardware wallet companies, and they've been around for a while. And because they've been around for a while, they have built a reputation of trust. They wouldn't be in business today if there was any reports whatsoever that that the coins were hacked or that the private keys were hacked or anything like that. They wouldn't have a sustainable business model if they weren't deemed trustworthy. Now, is it possible? Sure, I'm sure that at some point with enough resources, enough time, and enough motivation that anyone can potentially hack this secure element and use very specialized equipment to do that. But again, they would have to know a lot more information to make sure that this particular device, the gain is, or the reward is better than the effort that they're putting in terms of time and resources and also having physical access to the device. So just wanted to bring that kind of part up. Another factor that I look at when I'm researching hardware wallet companies is not only the reputation or how long that they've been around. I also read a lot of reviews on trustpilot.com, and I try to get sort of a feel or lay for the land on Reddit and some other community posts and things like that, just to sort of feel what the community has responded with so far and seeing what their experience has been. But then also I check out you take a look here, I do check out their secure hardware, what kind of protocols they use, and how much of their information is open source, meaning can I verify on an open source way like GitHub, can I verify that security has been tested by completely anonymous third parties? Can I verify that there's a community that is scrutinizing and completely looking at this code and checking for vulnerabilities, so that you're not just trusting the company's word for it, but you're actually getting a group of unbiased people that are looking at this code and making sure that it's secure and making sure that it's tested. Ledger is an example of a company that uses a secure element, which most people would agree is the most secure way for storing your private keys in a hardware device, just because there's so many ways to protect against attack vectors. On the other side of that token, because it's so proprietary and it's so secretive in terms of how they develop it and how they transmit information, a lot of people don't trust that element of it, which is a very valid point. There's another hardware wallet, of course, Trezor, and they are a lot more open source. So there's some degree of proprietary security information that's not going to be open source, and that's secret in terms of how they're encrypting and keeping your private keys safe. Is obviously needs to be kept secret. Their secret sauce to what makes it secure, and their algorithms are not going to be public information, and for good reason. But Trezor is a good example of a company where about 95% of their information, in terms of their hardware, in terms of their software, in terms of their integration, firmware, etc., that's all open source, and that can be viewed on GitHub, as you can see here. They even leave a link to it in their description here. So a lot of these hardware wallet companies leave their information open source. You can see that there's a ton of people that comment on it, that go through it. There's a lot of interaction with these public facing GitHubs, and where people can review the code and people can scrutinize it, and it's very transparent, which is really nice. It shows that they're making an effort not to hide anything. So in my opinion, I mean, at the end of the day, you really have to decide, like, okay, after doing my research, is it a legitimate company? Have they been around for a while? Is their information open source? And can I get some other reviews of people that have tested and used this product? At the end of the day, there is some level of trust that you have to put into this device, and you have to decide, what are the alternatives, right? Am I going to be safer having all my seed phrase on just a piece of paper? No, as we know, paper is very fragile and can be destroyed very easily. That's another reason I recommend getting a metal recovery seed backup, which I'll leave a link in the description below if you're interested in that. But even with that metal recovery seed backup, you still are going to need to import those words, the mnemonic phrase, into a piece of software, either a soft wallet or a hot wallet, or a hardware wallet, which is offline, and that is air gapped. So at the end of the day, to answer your question, there is no perfect formula. You really don't know if there is any potential reason or any potential way that they could potentially hack or gain access to your private keys, but because there's a lot of scrutiny, and because there's a lot of transparency and honesty with the way that they're conducting business, I have a lot of faith in these companies that they're not going to try to screw over their investors or people that buy their product, because that would completely eliminate trust in a security level product, and they would end up losing a lot more money than they would potentially gain in the long run by doing any sort of malfeasance or anything like that. I just wanted to give you kind of my 2 cents on that, and what are some of the factors that I look at when I'm choosing a hardware wallet company, and things that I look at when I'm researching new hardware wallet companies. I do ask a lot of questions. A lot of these hardware wallet companies that I end up doing reviews for, I hop on the calls with the founders and ask a lot of security questions. I do research into their fundamentals of how their company was formed and what protocols that they're using, what sort of secure element chips, are they open source, etc., and so on. So I wanted to just give you an overview of the things that I look at. But the short answer is, at the end of the day, you have to have some level of trust. And I feel more secure having my private key stored in a hardware wallet, or even for that matter, a software wallet, than I ever would try to putting it on a pen and paper and leaving it, to its own devices on a destructible piece of paper like that. Not only that, when you have a mnemonic phrase or even just a raw private key strand on a piece of paper or even on a metal recovery C backup in order to send and receive and all those sort of things that you need to do to interact with the wallet, you will ultimately at some point or another need to use a software to be able to send and receive transactions. So at the end of the day, for user experience and the overall security of the device, I look at a lot of different factors in the communication methods. So hope this was helpful. If you liked this video and it brought you any perspective or value, please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment below. Let me know what your thoughts are on this and what Andreas said in the clip there. And I completely agree with what he said. And he's proven to be a very unbiased and trustworthy person in the Bitcoin space, and someone that I highly look up to in a lot of his videos and read his books and so on. So leave a comment down below and let me know what your thoughts are and what you believe is your most secure wallet, or what your experience has been, or if you've come across any scammy or potentially sketchy wallets or anything like that. I'd like to hear from you and get some feedback. And then I am going to be doing another video shortly on a few other new announcements that are coming up, so stay tuned for that. But I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up here. Crypto Renegade out.